tonight, 8 steps to healthful living. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. But I wanted to bring out some things here. Brothers and sisters, we recognize that in the infirmities of our flesh, the Bible says, David says, Lord, you know our frame, that we are but dust. We recognize that because of sin, affliction has come, because of some violation of principles that have been put in place by God to sustain us have been violated, which brings on various sicknesses and illnesses. Now, again, in our last video, Living Without Disease, we said often doctors today are finding it difficult to understand the body and how to relate to this wonderful creation. We are told in Psalms 139 verse 14, we are wonderfully and fearfully made. And they're having a hard time of reconciling the way the body operates with their understanding of evolution. And often because of that platform of evolution, they're having a very hard time in dealing with the body. Thus, disease is studied more rather than prevention. Very, very little money or science or understanding goes into prevention. Everyone wants to understand, how does disease affect the body, rather than studying to see how can I maintain this wonderful machine. Its pattern, its blueprint is all right there in the DNA, but we are trying to understand that from the prism of evolution, and they do not harmonize. Because if we cling to evolution, then we have no control over how our bodies are responding. We should just simply go with the flow. Well, in the rational mind, we don't want to accept that either, because we were created by God to live. That's what we were created to do. And so the body wants to live. Now, what you see here is I pulled these out of my so-called medicine cabinet. And what these are things that I believe are very essential and good to have in your home because of various illnesses and sicknesses and so forth and so on. What I have here is activated charcoal. Now, this is not charcoal that you go outside and cook on a grill with, but this is activated charcoal. And what this does is good for upset stomachs, is good for bites, insects bites, is good for even for various poisons. I wouldn't tell you to go and drink strychnine and then take a glass of charcoal, but if by some means you are poisoned, maybe you're in the bathroom and you're spraying chemicals, and you're spraying those chemicals and you're cleaning, your tub is clean, your shower is clean, your countertop is clean, but all of a sudden you began to feel a little nauseated. You began to get a little headache. And I recommend that you, again, anytime you clean your bathrooms with those chemicals and Cloroxes and all these various things, that, again, there's ventilation in that bathroom and air is blowing in there. But should you do that, and I many times have been in the bathroom cleaning and have found myself getting a headache and starting to feel a little nauseated. And what I would often do is I would just simply go and take maybe an 8-ounce glass, teaspoon, or maybe sometimes even a heaping tablespoon of this charcoal, and drink plenty of water. And generally, over time, you begin to feel normal. Now, you may need to take it one or more times. Now, again, I recommend this if you're not on medications, if you're not doing other things. This is something that I believe that everyone needs to have in their home. Again, it's called activated charcoal, activated charcoal. What I have here is some vitamin C powder. And generally what we do with that is it has a little scoop inside. Generally, if I see the children either sneezing or wheezing a little bit, I would generally maybe put it on the tip of their tongue. It's kind of a little tart and it will cause you to kind of squinge like biting into a lemon. And that's that vitamin C. And I generally would just put some of this on their tongue and let them swallow it. And again, plenty of rest. And we're going to talk about all those things and how all these things work together. I have here some peppermint oil. That's also good. Either you could put it in a bath or put it in some water. It's good for your breath, as well as open up any congestion. Here I have, again, some more charcoal tablets. This is charcoal powder, and these are charcoal tablets. Again, something, if you have small children and even yourself, you definitely want to have charcoal on hand, and especially the vitamin C. And I have here some garlic. Now this is garlic. One of these tablets is equal to 4 cloves. All right. And it comes in a form like this. It's not medication. It's just simple garlic that is put into these little tablets. Again, they're odorless. And again, when that cold is coming, that sniffle is starting to arise, I generally would pop in, maybe because an adult, sometimes I would pop in 2, especially when I'm about to travel and be on airplanes. Just as a prevention mechanism, I generally would take 2 of those. Garlic is good as a blood purifier. It wards off and is able to fight off very quickly various viruses that are in the air. Just a little side note, you always wonder in the old Dracula movies, when they wanted to save themselves from Dracula, they would always put that bunch of garlic around their necks. And I used to always wonder, what on earth was garlic going to do against a vampire? But nonetheless, it's a blood purifier. And so again, I generally would take 2, maybe even sometimes 3 before I travel, especially being on an airplane. You got people sneezing and all sorts of things is in those things. And so this is, again, something excellent you definitely want to have in your home. These are just some simple things, and we make sure that we keep them for the children as well as for ourselves, because we get sick as well. Now, here I have cabbage. Now, what this cabbage is for, it comes in the cruciferous family. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments. And this cabbage here, you see it's a raw cabbage out of the grocery store. Now, this is good for withdrawing inflammation. Now, brothers and sisters, again, I've been privileged to have some doctor friends, nurses, and speaking with one of my doctor's friends, he said he has not found any drug, notice now, any drug that is able to absorb and to remove swelling and inflammation like the cabbage. Now, this is coming from someone in the medical community who understands God's principles. And I actually use this not on myself, but I have a friend in New York, and he was in a bad car accident and broke his leg, had a rod in his leg. And for a while, some months, I don't know how long, he was not able to bend his leg because of the rod, and his feet would swell. And then one day I was at his home, and he was telling me how his feet were swelling and he hardly could put his shoes on. And I told him to get a cabbage and get this cabbage. And I told him to break off a couple of leaves like this. And I said, what you want to do is you want to get this cabbage, and depending on how big the area of swelling is, if it's your wrist, maybe your ankle, maybe your knee, maybe your shoulder. There may be some swelling. And so let's just assume that this is going to be for the wrist. Now, if it's going to be for the wrist, I want to make sure that it goes around the wrist. And what I told him to do is I said, hey, I want you to take a couple of these leaves. And this is our saran wrap here. I'll show you what we'll do with it in a moment. And what you do is take a wooden spoon. You don't have a wooden spoon, get a cup, a glass cup, get a jar. You don't have a glass jar, get a shoe, get your mother's heel, get some hard object. You got to go outside and get a rock. And what you would do is just take this wooden spoon, rock, or whatever hard object you can get, and you just want to break this up. You want to take this cabbage and you just want to beat it until you start to see the water come out of these veins here. And you want to break it up, not breaking it like this. You want to take it and you want to beat it. And again, this spoon may not necessarily, it's hard. Give it a little, So you want to break this thing up because you want what's in these veins. So in order to get it, you got to break it up. All right. If you want what's in these veins, you're going to have to beat it. And so what you would do is you would take it and you would beat it, and you would do both of the leaves like this, and you would beat it. And as this flattens out, so let's just beat this one just a little bit. And you take these leaves and you just beat these leaves out. Now some may say, oh, is it an organic leaf? We're not concerned with that right now. We're not going to eat this. All right, and you want to take this vein, take these things, and you want to break it up. And then you want to take it and you want to lay that thing out here on your saran wrap. All right, we're not going to have aluminum for you. We want saran wrap. And you want to take that, whatever the area is, whether, again, it's the wrist, it could be the ankle, it could be the knee, as I said, it could be the shoulder, wherever there may be swelling. If you have arthritis, whatever, swelling in the joints, and you want to take this and say it was in your wrist, say the arthritis in your wrist or in your fingers, it was bad and you just couldn't bend your fingers. And I was with Pastor Kofer, and he was doing a medical missionary. He was doing a demonstration, and there was a lady there in the audience, the congregation where he was speaking. And he began to talk about this, and she raised her hand and said, I have information. And I said to myself, because I never saw it done up until that point. And I said to myself, Lord, I sure hope this thing works. And this thing don't prove to be some quack medicine. And I'm sitting there kind of skeptical because I've never seen it. And he took the sister's hand and he put it in there. Now the sister's hand was swollen. And he put it in there and he wrapped it up. And I'm looking and I'm saying, Lord, I wonder, is this thing going to work? And brothers and sisters, he only spoke for a half hour, but maybe 5-10 minutes after he wrapped it up, she just blurted out, I'm feeling, and she began to feel the throbbing. She began to feel the throbbing there. And brothers and sisters, I want to tell you that before we left that meeting, she was able to move her wrist. Again, it's not magic. It's the power of God that he has placed in these healing agencies. The Bible tells us in the book Psalms 104, verse 14, that the herb is for the service of man. These things are here for us, brothers and sisters. And we're going to get into this. So you just wrap this, you take that wrist, and you lay it down on that leaf. Now, again, you want to break it up a little more than I broke it up here, just for the demonstration. You want to break this thing up until it's completely flat. And you want to put that thing on your wrist, and you want to take that saran wrap and you want to wrap it snug around the wrist. You may need someone to assist you in doing that. And you want to take that and wrap that wrist up and allow it to sit there. You could either do it before you go to bed or recommend it before you go to bed. And you want to kind of keep it in an area where you're not moving it so much. and you will immediately begin to feel that throbbing. If you have carpal tunnel and have had to have surgery in that area, this is also good for removing that inflammation. Highly recommended. So again, if you know someone, again, who has some arthritic pain, again, in those joints, you wrap this with that cabbage and it will begin to draw that inflammation and they will begin to feel relief. Now, again, this is not for us to live on. Amen. We're not going to live putting cabbage on to deal with the arthritis. We want to start putting things in our bodies that will start working in us to reduce and to remove those symptoms. So again, this is our cabbage demonstration. Now, another recommendation that I have for you is an excellent book. Now remember, I said earlier, and I quoted Psalms, Hosea 4 and verse 6, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Along with that handout, Cleansing of the Body Temple, I want to recommend a book to you. It's called The Itinerary of a Good Breakfast. Itinerary, not of a good, itinerary of a breakfast. Once again, itinerary, the itinerary of a breakfast. You know, when you buy a ticket to travel, they give you your itinerary and you look at it and you see where all your stops are and what flight or what train or whatever the case may be, where you're getting picked up, where you're getting dropped off, so you can let the person know on the other end what flight you're coming in, when you're coming. What does your itinerary say? Well, this is the itinerary of a breakfast and is written by John Kellogg. And brothers and sisters, it is a very good instruction and teaching tool to have. I'm actually using this book in my health class when it comes to teaching my children about their bodies. Itinerary of a Breakfast. Excellent book to have for teaching about the body. And if you just simply want to learn, and you must learn about your body, how it works, what food is to the body, how essential good food is to the body, where it goes after it leaves your mouth. And you can know, brothers and sisters, how your body is working so that you know when the next meal should enter your body. Not when you get to the store to get gas, you just pick up peanuts, or you get to your friend's house and grab a couple of chips. You want to know where your body is on its itinerary in fixing the body and removing itself from the system. So again, Itinerary of a Breakfast by John Kellogg. Excellent, excellent book to get for teachers as well as for students. I mean, it's written in a very layman's term type manner. You know, you go into a doctor and the doctor writes you a subscription or a prescription, not sub, but prescription for medication. And he signs it in a way, and you look in that thing and you say, thanks, doc. And you're wondering, like, you don't know what this is. And you go give it to the pharmacist, and he goes back there and does his little magic. Because, you know, when you look on that CVS or Walgreens, what do you see? You see a cup, and it has a stick, and it has stars. Magic. Sorcery. And that's what it is. And you take that potion and you go and deliver it to that doctor, and all of a sudden he goes in the back and mixes his potions and comes out and tells you $500. And we take it having no idea. But brothers and sisters, God has made it simple for us to know what our bodies need. Again, Itinerary of a Breakfast by John Kellogg. Now we want to go into our subject tonight. Again, you should have, and if not downloaded, at least have it up on your screen. Living without dis-ease. We're going to be going through this particular handout. We're down on the section where it says, well, we'll start with where it says, what are the steps taken to overcome disease? What are the steps that we must take in overcoming disease? Now, brothers and sisters, again, we know our bodies, and many of us, as we get up in age, we start noticing certain things. We start noticing we can't jump that fence we used to jump when we were 16, 17 years old. We notice that going upstairs is laborious. And when we start thinking about moving, we're thinking of one-story homes now. And over time, we begin to feel the wearing out of our frames. But we must understand, though man is wasting away with disease, you and I who understand, as well as those who are in ignorance, if they would just can be awakened to the reality that God would have them to be in health, that Jesus came to give us life and that more abundantly. It is the thief that has come to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And this is not what God intended for us. We have destroyed ourselves, but in God there's help. And He has given us these principles to understand what health is. Now, when we look at the body and we consider what the body is made of. Now, again, we're not using the prism of evolution. We're coming from the understanding of creation, that we were created, that we are strategically designed by an intelligent being. And because of that, we want to understand, how can I maintain such a complex organism as this human body, as intricate as a airplane, as intricate as these new phones and computers may be, they do not measure up to the complex and the sophisticated nature of the human body. It does not measure up. As wise as an animal can be, as wise as we might think a monkey can be, they do not measure up in intellect ability such as us. If they did, then we should elect one of them to be president and senator, thus putting our country back in place, but we don't see them inside these important offices. When you have a problem with the wife, you don't go to the dog and ask for answers. When you have a problem with your husband and you can't figure out these bills and you can't figure out this answer on this test, you don't look to Lassie and say, what would you do in this particular situation, brothers and sisters? We have a brain, this intricate creation that we have. We want to understand it. Now, there's a saying, an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So now, as we're going to look at prevention and cure, many of us are in the cure stage. So we need that pound. Some may need 2 pounds of cure, but also as we're understanding cure, we do need to understand prevention. In other words, your faucet breaks and the pipe breaks. Well, now you can't worry about how it broke. You must worry about fixing it. So what do? You're worrying about fixing it, but you want to stop any excess water or unnecessary water that would come. So you shut off the valve and then you go to fixing it. Same way, we're trying to understand prevention and cure. So as we work on the cure, let's turn the valve off and to prevent any excess from coming. All right, let's cut off the unnecessary, turn the valve off, prevention, and let's fix the cure, and let's fix the problem. So if we're struggling with our weight, well, let's work on how to reduce it, but let's also cut off the valve so no more. You get the point. If I'm sick, let me work on fixing it, but I don't want to do what is bringing me more sickness. You get the point. So we must learn the pound of cure now, but we also must understand prevention. Let's not carry any unnecessary weights. Let's look here. So you have your handout. What are the steps to be taken to overcome disease? Notice now, it says here, in case of sickness. You say, well, wait a minute, I'm not sick. Brothers and sisters, we all are sick. We are told, scientists says, that every person has cancer cells within the body. Each and every one of us have cancer cells within the body. You say, well, I don't believe that. Well, brothers and sisters, based off the word of God, I can believe it because of sin. God says that not only would good seed be sown in the earth, but he said there would also be thorns and thistles. So along with that which is good for the body, there will also be that which is bad for the body. But we must now learn how to shut off those tears, shut off those cancer cells. And did you know that cruciferous vegetables, cabbage, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, these cruciferous vegetables are designed in a way to literally shut off cancer cells. They shut off cancer cells. Matter of fact, I wrote down a note concerning it. It says that it inactivates carcinogens. In other words, cancer-causing agents. These carcinogens comes into our bodies. They're telling us, they're admitting, I would say, they're admitting now in many of the soft drinks that many of you drink, and I say you because I don't drink them. We've just learned that Johnson & Johnson had to, they lost a case and they have to pay out $72 million. Why? Because they failed to let the public know that the ingredient inside their powder that everyone likes to put on in the summertime. I remember being a baby, putting that stuff on. And then as we get a little older, you mostly see it a lot in ladies on the summertime. They love to put that little baby powder on and keep themselves cool from sweating. Come to find out that Johnson & Johnson failed to let the public know that one of the agents, one of the active ingredients inside that powder was carcinogens or could cause cancer, and they had to pay out millions, and they have other lawsuits pending because of their ingredients, brothers and sisters, because of their ingredients. Pepsi, some years ago, said that one of the ingredients in their sodas was carcinogenic. In other words, it has an ingredient that is cancer causing. But guess what? They only had to put it on the cans in California. The other cans, they didn't have to say it. And many other things, Lord only knows what's in our food, because there is a law. There has been a law passed that these food companies do not have to, notice now, they do not have to, by law, put all of their ingredients on the package. They do not have to put all their ingredients on the package. A law just passed that even a lot of the foods that will now be purchased, they do not even have to tell you where it comes from. So even if something happens in Mexico, something happens in Cuba, something happens in one of these countries, Chile, or wherever they're getting their apples and vegetables from, if something was to break out that would cause you to not want that product, they do not have to reveal any longer where that food was manufactured, so thus keeping you further in the dark. For what? For money. This is why you and I must take a personal responsibility for our health. We cannot look at the drug companies and blame them like Adam blamed Eve. We can't look at the food companies and blame them as Adam blamed Eve. We must take responsibility for our own actions. Again, it says, in case of sickness, number one, the cause should be ascertained. Number two, unhealthful conditions should be changed. Number three, wrong habits corrected. Number four, then nature, watch this, then nature is to be assisted in her effort to do what? To expel impurities and to reestablish what? Right conditions in the system. Our bodies we want to live. What is nature? What is in our bodies that we are to assist in her effort to get rid of these carcinogens and impurities? It is our immune system. It is these 7 channels of elimination are to be assisted in seeking to bring about a right system in the body. Fevers often are created to let us know what? That there is a foreign invader in the body. You know, like you're somewhere in a building and all of a sudden the fire alarm goes off and a red light begins to start sounding like burp, burp, burp. It starts going off, letting us know that we must start moving towards what? The exit. Same way when it comes to our bodies. Fever and red always symbolize hot, discomfort. When that fever begins to rise in the body, it is sending a signal to our intelligence that what? That there are foreign invaders in the body, and now intelligently I want you to assist my immune system, to assist these eliminating channels to remove the body of this foreign object. This is what we must do. So when we get a fever, like we said last week, we don't run and grab the Tylenol. We don't run and grab the antihistamines. We began to start to ascertain, wait a minute, where's this fever coming from? Where's this? Because again, we want to look at the cure now, because that's where the focus is. The fever is there. We can't cry about necessarily how it got there per se, but we must recognize, as we're focusing on the cure, we must say, wait a minute, prevention. Am I doing something that brought about this fever? I am. Let me cut that off. And now let me start working on the cure. Let me start working on the cure. Notice. All right. And this is what we want to start doing in these 8 steps of helpful living, is going to show us how to assist the cure and the prevention. To assist the cure and also the prevention. Notice, the first thing to be done is to ascertain the true character of the sickness and then go to work intelligently to remove the cause. Example, I'll give you an example. When I first moved to Georgia, I remember my back was hurting. Oh, it was hurting so bad. My lower back was hurting. And I'm saying, man, I went and got some Tiger Balm, and I'm rubbing that, had that Tiger Balm rubbed on. My wife was putting it on, and I'm saying, man, it kind of relieves the pain a little bit. But then the next day it's there again, and it was going on. And I'm saying, man, what is going on with this lower back of mine? And then the thought came into my mind, and I know it was God. You're not drinking water. And I'm saying, water, what does water have to do? And I just started drinking lots of water, not just taking it to the head, but I started making sure that I was drinking adequate amounts of water. Guess what? Pain went away. Pain completely subsided. And I realized, again, not drinking water, the kidneys are straining, and that's where I believe that pain was coming from. Because you have to understand, brothers and sisters, our kidneys are so important. They say that if we did not have our kidneys, in order to purify the blood, we would have to drink, notice this, 40,000 glasses of water per day in order to do what 2 kidneys do. Meaning that you and I cannot function without kidneys. Thus, this is why they've created dialysis. I want us to understand something, brothers and sisters. We must take care of our bodies. Ascertain the true cause of the infirmity. I'm having a headache. Well, Tylenol didn't cause it. Excedrin or Advil did not cause the headache. What brought the headache about? Once I ascertain it now, then I could go about assisting the body and relieving itself. Because yes, you take the Tylenol. Yes, you take the Advil. Oh, I feel better. But the problem is still there. You just basically shut your body down and gave that problem free access to our bodies when the body was saying, get rid of the problem. Let's go here. What are these laws of health? What are these things that I must do now to reestablish right conditions in this body? First one is laws. What are these laws of health? It says temperance. Temperance on your handout. True temperance teaches us, notice now, true temperance teaches us to dispense, that is to do away with, entirely with everything hurtful, and to use judiciously with reason that which is helpful. So what is temperance? Temperance is avoiding everything that is harmful to the body and using in moderation, using with judgment that which is helpful. In other words, water is good, but I wouldn't sit down and just take a gallon of water and drink it to my head. I must use common sense. I recognize that many, if not all, of what is characterized as soft drinks are harmful in some way to the body. Now, they may be little foxes that destroy the vine, but nonetheless, the vine is being destroyed. And so we must not look at these things and say, well, it really doesn't matter. But the reality is, brothers and sisters, it really does. A lot of the things that we're putting in our bodies, a lot of the things that we are taking so freely are actually causing us tremendous harm. I go to the hospital often to visit individuals. And as I walk in the hospital, I see these soda machines. And I'm noticing other people are coming into the hospital to see their loved ones. And I'm looking at the soda machines, and I'm looking at people purchasing the various things before they go up to the room. And the thought comes into my mind is, they soon will be in the same bed that they're now visiting. They will soon be here, and they will not relate why they're here to this machine. You come down hospitals and you start finding foods being sold in the hospitals that contributes to the condition that led them to be here in the first place. There are a group of doctors who had band together, and they were petitioning to have fast food restaurants taken out of the hospitals. Why? Because now doctors are starting to understand that diet and health go hand in hand. And these doctors are petitioning various hospitals to remove these fast food places from their hospital lobbies. Why? Because these same foods are contributing to the sicknesses of their patients. And so this is why reports come out and they said processed meats leads to cancers. What does the meat and dairy industry do as damage control? They immediately have their paid doctors and paid dietitians on staff, or that have in some way been benefited by these powerful entities in society. They've either contributed directly or indirectly to various funds and projects and studies that some of these doctors have participated in, and they can't bite the hand that feeds them, so they immediately go in to discredit the information that was found. But if you notice now, they never attack the doctors per se, because the doctors are bona fide MDs. Thus, they cannot discredit their character, but they try to play down what is said, because these individuals in some way, shape or form have contributed from these powerful meat and dairy industries. But they're telling you these processed foods cause cancers. They cause cancers. Years ago, I remember when I was in California, a thing came out about Taco Bell and saying that some of the beef that was in their tacos was not actually beef. It was something else. And they said, no, it's not true. And they became indignant, and they buckled down and said, no, it is, only to come back and admit that, well, actually, no, it's not all. However, and they kind of but again, it doesn't really matter to the most of the people. They have gotten in their minds, I'm going to die from something, might as well enjoy life while I have it. Well, brothers and sisters, we're going to have to give an account for what is done in these bodies. But let's move on. So it says, temperance, again, teaches us to avoid everything that is hurtful, take in moderation and judiciously that which is helpful. It says, by practicing temperance in eating, in drinking, in dressing, in labor, and in all things, we can do for ourselves, watch this, what no physician can for us. In other words, by practicing temperance, we will do for us what no physician has the prescription to fix. Moderation, rest, temperance, slowing down, allowing the world to rush on without us, learning to sit and be calm. Be still, the Bible says. Notice, nutrition. Many are dying because of nutrition. Now, often people think that, well, I ate, I'm full. It was nutritious, but in many times it's not. It is void of the very things that the body needs to function correctly. It has the starches, it has the sugars, and so we have the energy for the time being. It has the protein for the time being, but it lacks the vitamins that our body needs, and it lacks most of the time the fiber to remove the waste that is left from these foods in our bodies. It lacks it. It lacks the cruciferous. It lacks the blood of the vegetables, I want to call it, the blood of these green leafy vegetables. It lacks that to purify, to constantly refine and purify our bodies. Brothers and sisters, understand this, that every meal that we take should, in one way or the other, not only give us energy, but it should also produce and assist in maintaining and healing and fixing whatever needs fixed. Every time, think of your food as the internal examination. Think of your food. This food is about to go through, and it is about to, in fact, let me look for a better word. In other words, when you take your car in and you say, I'm just here to get a checkup, they hook it up to the machines, and they run what is called a diagnosis. And that diagnosis, they are able to say, you know what? You need this, you need that, you need this needs to be fixed, this is good, that is good, and this needs that plug, and so on and so on. That's what the diagnostic test tells it. Now, the thing is, when you eat your food, you want your food, in a sense, to go through and operate on the same principle as a diagnostic exam. And whatever needs internally, your body needs, your food can assist in those inner repairs. Now, what is a key factor in getting this to become in a form where our bodies can be benefited by? The first is chewing. What did I say? Chewing. Chewing. The mouth and the stomach are the preliminary processes to preparing the body, the small intestines, the liver, and all these things to do their work in assisting the body. The mouth with the saliva and the teeth and the stomach are just the preliminary steps for the entire body, for the small intestines, the liver to do their work, the kidneys to do their work, and aiding the body in repairing itself. Now, there's an interesting thing I learned from this book. Interesting thing. We was talking about this week. All right. And brothers and sisters, this is a powerful little book. I recommend it, Itinerary of a Breakfast by Kellogg. I want us to notice something. I'm going to a chapter to the chapter where it's dealing with the 5 food laboratories. 5 food laboratories. All right. Let's see. And I'm reading from page 19 in this book. Notice what it says. Proper chewing of the food also serves a useful purpose. Notice this. In regulating the food intake. Reading again. Proper chewing of the food also serves a useful purpose in regulating the food intake. The thorough tasting of the food permits the nerves of taste to judge the quality of the food and to regulate the intake to suit the needs of the body, a most important function. Wait a minute. Chewing the food, it's almost like as you're chewing it, you're tasting it. But what is it doing? The nerves are sending signals to the body and to the brain to let it know that this food is full of life. Thus, a lot of it is not necessary for what the body will need. But generally, when food lacks the right enzymes, it does not send those signals to trip, as it were, to trip those signals, to tell the body, to tell the brain, to tell the hands, to tell the eyes, to say, we got enough. Enough has been received. Wisdom, brothers and sisters. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. You think of a Venus flytrap, and it has those 2 little sensors on the inside. And as that fly gets in, that fly could do everything in the body. That fly could walk around that Venus flytrap and roll around and play handball on the wall if it wanted to, as long as it doesn't touch or trigger those signals. Once it trips that signal, all of a sudden that trap closes. Well, brothers and sisters, our body has these sensors that when those sensors are triggered by enzymes, the body sends the signal, it says enough. But too often, we're eating food that is deficient in enzymes. It's deficient in vitamins, has protein, it has sugars, but it doesn't have those things which will tell the body enough. And so we can overeat. Watch this. Last point. Hasty eating and overeating go together. All right. Now, brothers and sisters, again, this is a very, very important point as it relates to nutrition, because a lot of times, as I mentioned before, we're eating and we're like, yes, I'm receiving everything I need. So you go into the doctor and the doctor examines your blood. He gives some blood. And all of a sudden he comes and tells you that you're deficient. And you're saying, how? I'm eating everything. I eat 7 times a day. I do this, I do that, and I do this. But you're deficient because the food you're eating is deficient. Now, brothers and sisters, maybe in our next lecture, in our next segment, we'll talk about food combinations and so forth and so on. But I want us to move ahead. Moving ahead. We're running out of time here. And again, I may not get to all of these, but at least you have them. Nutrition. Many times, a short period of entire abstinence from food, followed by, notice, simple, moderate eating, has led to recovery through nature's own recuperative efforts, meaning that nutrition, oftentimes we think that we have to keep eating, but sometimes we can allow the body to rest, to fast. Say, you know what, I'm going to allow the body to rest. In other words, I'm not feeling good. I don't need to go and eat. Right now something's really bothering me. I don't need to go and eat. Think about this. You're sitting down eating, and all of a sudden, you hear the baby crying, or you hear an accident, or someone calls you and says, so-and-so just got hit by a car, or something drastic. What happens to the body? The stomach immediately shuts down and you lose your appetite. And you want to go and address the issue. Because the body is saying, hey, there's something more important than food. You need to deal with that. And so the same thing, when we are feeling distress, when we're not feeling good, that is the time to rest. Yes, I know the body may say, yes, I want this. And all of a sudden, while you're hungry, you start thinking of all these things you want. But that's that your eyes at that point are bigger than your stomach. And the minute you take one bite and you think you're going to eat all of it, next thing you know, you only take 2 bites, you don't want it anymore. Because your body is saying, yes, you're in a habit of just putting things in your mouth, but the body is saying, I need rest. There's something that needs to be dealt with. That's why when you have a high fever, they don't recommend that you eat. They recommend that you rest. Sometimes they even tell you to take soups. But brothers and sisters, if in that point you would push aside the entire plate and you would just rest. Brothers and sisters, you have examples in the Bible. When David's son was sick, his first son by Bathsheba, the Bible mentioned how David fasted. He fasted for over a week. But once the crisis was over, then he went back to eating. But in the midst of the crisis, he was not eating. He was not like Belshazzar when the temple was surrounded. They were in there feasting and drinking, unaware of what was happening. We may need to rest. Nutrition. Next one is rest. Some make themselves sick. How? By overwork. You read of the young man, I believe he was in his 20s, and he worked 2 days straight with no rest, and he dropped dead. Went to Wall Street, finally got a job on Wall Street, and man, he was going to work and work to make that money, and he dropped dead. Brothers and sisters, we have been designed by God to rest, not to keep popping energy and popping Red Bulls. We need to rest. They don't call it the graveyard shift for nothing. It says, some make themselves sick by overwork. For these rest, freedom from care, and a spare diet are essential to restoration of health. Now, I want to get to the rest of these, but I'm not going to belabor the point. You have the other 2 there. We'll bring these 2, water and exercise and trust in divine power, into our next segment. So, brothers and sisters, again, these are simple steps that we can take in having a healthy life. But we must understand our bodies and who we are. These things are there just to assist our bodies in getting themselves back to where they want to be and need to be. We don't want to live on charcoal. We don't want to live taking vitamin C in this particular fashion. We don't want to live on garlic in this particular fashion. Yes, we want to put it in our food, but we don't want to live off this. These are there just to assist the body in getting itself where it needs to be. And then our food is to be our medicine. Our food is to run the diagnostic tests, and our food is to aid in restoring and helping us maintain this wonderful machinery. And this is what we need to focus on. Not all of this. Yes, praise God for the cabbage, praise God for the charcoal, but we don't want to live on it in this fashion. Yes, this can reduce the swelling for arthritis. Yes, I sprained my ankle and I could put cabbage and wrap it in this saran wrap and wrap my ankle once I break those leaves up and wrap it in my ankle. Yes, I could put it on my shoulder. Yes, I could put it on some type of swelling and it can reduce the pain. Yes, I could put it on, man, I had carpal tunnel surgery. Yes, I could wrap cabbage and it will remove the swelling, inflammation from my wrist. Yes, it can do all those things. But who wants to live wrapping themselves up in cabbage? Who wants to live using charcoal as a poultice? Let your food be your medicine. Again, along with our Bibles, I recommend this book, Itinerary of a Breakfast. Not only is it a good educational tool, but it is also good for helping us understand how to maintain the health of our bodies. Brothers and sisters, again, I want to thank you for tuning in with us tonight. This is number 2 in our series of living without disease. In our next segment, we are going to talk about, again, the practical use of water externally as well as internally. We're going to talk about exercise. Exercise, brothers and sisters. What is exercise? And I believe that many of you will be shocked as to what is not exercise. And I believe that some of you might even be surprised to understand what exercise actually is. So next time we're going to talk about water, exercise, and trusting in divine power. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about how food can be our medicine. Until then, stay tuned.
You've been listening to gospel media recorded by Everlasting Gospel Bible School with Pastor Darren Tinsley. To contact, support, or obtain similar media from Everlasting Gospel Bible School, contact us at P.O. Box 204-209, Augusta, Georgia 30917, or call us at 706-421-7719. And lastly, on the web, visit us at egbibleschool.org. Again, that's egbibleschool.org. May God richly bless you.